Am I audible? Hello? Rajesh sir, am I audible? Uh, please let the resource person in. He's trying to log in. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, Madhya.
Please make me the host. Actually, a number of people are trying to log in.
Madhya, hello, Madhya.
Yeah.
I'm making you host, and I've
Okay.
kept it on recording. तो अगर मैं बीच में निकल जाऊँ ना, तो आप जरा handle कर लीजिए.
ठीक
Okay?
है. Okay.
We are facing big problem from 2 days.
Sure. Okay.
Hello, Madhiha, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yes.
Okay.
Good evening. I can hear you.
Okay, and am I visible too?
Yes, you're visible.
Okay, great.
I'll just make you the co-host.
My screen. Should I test my screen beforehand or?
Yes, I think let's test it.
Okay, just a moment.
Yeah, I think it's fine. It's running fine.
Let me put it in. Is it better?
Yeah.
Sure.
Perfect.
So should I stop sharing now?
Yes. You can start after the introduction.
Sure. Is it okay now?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Nirmala ma'am, you're
Good evening,
mute.
Nirmala.
How are you,
Good
darling?
Good evening. Good evening.
कल तो मेरा नाम ही नहीं कर रहा था, है ना?
हाँ. कैसे हो?
बढ़िया. तुम बताओ कैसी हो?
ठीक हूँ. हसनैन जी कैसे हो?
मैं अच्छा हूँ मैम. How are you?
Good.
Hello sir. Hello
Good.
sir.
Good.
It's always a pleasure.
Same here, ma'am.
भाई बहुत अच्छा लगता है.
Same here, ma'am.
ऐसा लगता है जैसे मक्का मदीना या किसी बहुत बड़े तीर्थ स्थान पर होके आ गए.
Oh my God. It's a compliment. I take it as a compliment.
Honest confession. My honest confession.
Okay. I feel blessed.
आपकी तबीयत ठीक है? आपकी तबीयत ठीक है?
Yeah. I'm almost 100% fit now.
Recovered now.
Yes. You are looking much better. On that day you are good.
हाँ.
और सुष्मिता कैसी हो तुम?
मैं बिल्कुल ठीक हूँ।
कल के प्रोग्राम से तो हम वंचित रह गए। मेरा
हाँ,
नेटवर्क,
आपका नेटवर्क डाउन था कल, इसलिए।
मेरा भी और हमारा यहाँ प्रॉब्लम थी। कल मेरी ग्रैंडडॉटर पेपर ही नहीं दे पाई नेटवर्क की वजह से।
हाँ, नेटवर्क इज वेरी बैड।
सही आ रहा है।
हाँ, और ज्यादा अच्छा मैं कर सकता हूँ।
कैसे?
हाय लीला, हेलो लीला।
हेलो निर्मला जी, कैसे हो?
हाँ, मैं बढ़िया
Mumbai
हूँ।
people are facing some issues.
हाउ आर यू?
आई एम फाइन, बिल्कुल ठीक।
भैया कहाँ है? भैया की तो शक्ल दिखा दो।
अरे भैया, भैया है पास में ही है। आ जाओ।
बेटर हो गया ना?
हाँ ठीक। हेलो मदीहा।
Hello, ma'am. How are you?
फाइन।
हेलो
Very
मदीहा
nice to
बेटा।
see everybody. Good
Always a
evening, Nirmala ma'am.
हेलो कर दो।
हेलो
always a
एवरीबॉडी,
pleasure.
एवरीबॉडी हेलो।
हेलो कैसे हो?
फाइन फाइन, बढ़िया, बहुत बढ़िया।
हेलो।
Good evening, Nankumar sir. I hope everyone is excited for today's session. It's going to be
very
something
much,
different.
very much. हेलो प्रेमा जी। हेलो निर्मला जी, मुझे लगा आप सबसे हेलो कर लो फिर मैं आपसे हेलो करती। नहीं नहीं। It's always a pleasure to see each other. It's such a pleasure.
Yeah, I know.
और कैसी हैं आप? सब ठीक है आपके इधर? आपके उधर सब ठीक है? कल कुछ सुना
बिल्कुल
था।
ठीक है। हाँ जी,
पता नहीं कुछ बता रहे। हाँ, सब ठीक ही होने चाहिए।
सब ठीक है। क्या आवाज आ रही है?
So everybody is on mute now. Sensa, I would request you to unmute yourself.
Okay, I can show my face.
So people will keep on joining in and we can start now.
Sure.
So good evening, everyone. I welcome 13th century mystic and poet Rumi is often referred to as the poet of joy and love. And even after his death, centuries after his death, his works, poem, why does this work still endures? How his words remind us that poetry is a sustaining part of everyday life. Today in this session, Waris is a certified life coach, Sufi spiritual coach, corporates as a performance consultant, and individuals as a personal coach. He has formed a group called New Age Sufis, which conducts talks, workshops, and retreats to help people gain clarity about their true self. Welcome, Mr. Waris. Over to you.
Thank you, Madiha. So friends, I would like to understand a bit because this is a repeat session. Earlier, like I discussed about Rumi at the local chapter, NCR chapter. And I would like to know how many of you are familiar with this name.
We can have raised hands, physical raised
Yeah,
hands as well.
Nirmala ji, I can see your hand raised.
Madhu
Gopal ji,
Gaurji is raising her hand.
so
Yeah.
lot of you know this
Sushmita
name.
ji.
And you know, I have heard quotes of Rumi from Sufi shrines to scholars to boardrooms. So I have heard Rumi being quoted almost everywhere. You know, whenever somebody is trying to discuss a vast topic and try to communicate that in a nutshell, I think Rumi comes very handy when it comes to explaining things in a concise form. So, Madiha, one question I have is, what should be the language? Like, I'm comfortable with both, but if you think that most of the people will be comfortable in conversational Hindi and English,
I think
can
we can,
switch to that.
yeah, we can stick to both Hindi and English because there are people from Chennai as well who might not understand Hindi. That's why.
Okay, sure. So I will keep it primarily like Hindi, and I will keep on switching between English and Hindi.
Yes, sure.
Does it make sense?
Yes.
English is better because from South people may not understand high in Hindi.
Okay.
Simple Hindi is fine.
Yeah, it will be simple Hindi only. The Hindi we speak in Delhi. Okay. So, friends, I'll try to keep it as English as possible. Don't worry. So, Rumi represents a very unique, you can say, combination of, I will call it sheer coincidence. Like, such personalities are born by sheer coincidence. Most of us are born in certain faith, or rather, I would say that faith is imposed on us the moment we are born, if that's a better description. Because many of us don't choose our faith. Most of us don't choose our faith. So whether you will be a Muslim or Hindu or Christian, your parents decide that and put a nice label in the name of name. They name you and then they introduce you to certain rituals. And whether you are an active practitioner or a passive practitioner or an atheist, but you live with that name and branding, and for all that practical purposes, it is your identity. Whether you like it or not, whether you practice it or not, whether you relate to it or not, you live with it. I hope most of you will agree with me on this.
Yes.
Okay, so but Rumi was a little exception. I would say that he was born in a very decent family. His father Bahauddin himself was a great Sufi of his region, you can say, if not era, and he was advisor to that king. He was born in Balkh, a place which is somewhere somewhere in North Afghanistan and Tajikistan border. Roughly, it is known as Persian region only, the area which speaks Persian. So, so that's why he's at times called Rumi Balkhi, Jalaluddin Rumi Balkhi. So originally he was from there. And let me share the screen so that you get some idea about. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So Rumi was born in 1207, and those times were like there were threat of Mongols looming large in that area. If you look at map of Mongolia, which I'm trying to show right now, can you see the map?
Yes.
So if you see the center, Delun Bulldog, whatever. This is the center from where Mongols originated and moved in different directions, attacking and ruthlessly killing and decimating so many civilizations. If you have read history of 13th century, it is dominated by
Mongols.
Mongol attacks and all. So his father somehow got some intuition that this is not a safe place to live. Some people say that he had some tiff with the king because he was his advisor, and there was some debate happening, and somehow the king vexed the saint, and he said, no, I cannot work with this kind of person anymore, and he decided to move. So there were many reasons. I think Rumi was barely 10-year-old at that time. So his father decides to move from the place around 1220 or say 1517. He decides to move from Central Asia, you can say, or this Afghan region, and he moved westwards. So literally he was moving ahead of the Mongols. So as Mongols were moving, if you look at the Mongol chart, the way they are moving, it is around 1222. They reached the area where finally Rumi's family was settled. That's in Turkey. So first of all, his father moved westwards, and maybe it was Seljuk Sultanate at that time, and its center was Konya, which was also known as a great education center of its time. So his father first moved westwards, and then he was advised, or he came back to Konya, which was the political center, at the same time the education hub also of that era. Because the family had come from that Anatolia and Byzantine region, which was Rome Empire, basically Roman Empire. So he was given this nickname Rumi, because somebody who has come from Rome. If you see, this Konya place is actually in East Turkey, Central Eastern Turkey. And his family had first moved ahead to Byzantine Empire and then come back from the West. So because their language was very different, they were treated very well by the king, but they had that communication issue over here because Turkish was not their mother tongue. Though they were jurists, they were preachers as a family, and the king respected scholars a lot. So he gave them a garden, basically, which was empty. And the family settled there. They made some temporary settlement, which might have become a permanent settlement later. So it was a garden where the family put up first. And somewhere in that region, these are some pictures that I clicked when I visited Konya in 2016, 17. And so this is one of the madrasa where people like Rumi and scholars, and there are some hundreds of thousands of madrasas in that area, big or small. So this is not Rumi's madrasa. Actually, I could not click that, but it has a very European outlook, that Rumi's madrasa. So this is one of the madrasa where his father started teaching, and later Rumi was also inducted in one of the madrasas and became a teacher, a scholar, and a jurist, a preacher also. So that's how the family settled there in Konya. And everything was going fine for Rumi. He was very respected and he was a brilliant scholar. People used to come from far and wide to ask for questions. And he was like a gifted person. But there was something in him that we all know, which remains unexplored. And it requires a totally different treatment altogether than what most of us are accustomed to or are familiar with. So same thing happened to Rumi also. He was quite a settled scholar, somewhere in his middle ages now, 40s, I think, or early 40s. And one fine day, he encounters this notorious, popular, blunt man called Shams. So I jumped out of my car to click this photo. There's a signal there, and before the signal could turn green, I was able to take this photograph. This place is a landmark there. It's called Majmu al-Bahrain. And it is celebrated as the point where Rumi and Shams met for the first time. So if you watch it closely, you will see this, water kind of contour that is given to this, I think, brick or clay, baked clay kind of landmark that is created. But you can see the waves very clearly if you follow my arrow. And Majmu al-Bahrain can be translated into meeting of two waters. Majmu, I mean, they're coming together or coming close. Bahrain means water, so two water bodies. So this is the place where they met, and people declare that it was 15th of November, 1244.
So Shams was also a mystic, right?
Shams was a mystic. He was not known as a scholar and other things, but he could give run to many of the scholars of his time, and Rumi was no exception. So what happened? Let me give you that instance. There are many stories about how they met, and the most popular one I would like to share with you. And it goes like Rumi was reading something in his lawn, and there was a water body. There were some people around him, and he was engrossed in reading that book. All of a sudden, Shams appears, and he throws his book, snatches his book, and throws in water. No, before that, he asks Rumi, "What are you reading?" So Rumi looks at him and says, "No, this is something for scholars, not for people like you. ये आपके काम की चीज नहीं है, तो या आपके समझने की चीज नहीं है," कुछ ऐसा वर्ड उन्होंने बोला. तो रूमी ने वो बुक उठाई और शम्स ने वो बुक उठाई और पानी में फेंक दी, वो पुडल में जो पास में था. अब रूमी was like glued to it, and he got little irritated with this. So he said, "Ki, what is this? How can you throw my book like that?" तो वो जाते हैं शम्स और उसमें पानी में हाथ डालते हैं और वो बुक बाहर निकाल लेते हैं, और रूमी देखते हैं तो वो बुक बिल्कुल ड्राई है. So now Rumi is shocked. He says, "Ki, how is this possible?" He said, "This is not something for you to understand." And this was the first encounter, as people generally say. There are other stories, and one of that is very popular. And this goes like Shams was, like many people don't know where he was from and what was he up to, but he was wandering around and looking for somebody. And that somebody was somebody who could pass his message in a more eloquent and more refined manner, which he could not, because he was too blunt and too raw, and least articulate, you can say, in passing his own message. So he was looking for somebody who he could, pass that knowledge and could be expressed in a much better manner. So this was maybe his agenda, and he was wandering from one place to the other. He heard about Rumi, that this is the kind of scholar, I think he can help you. So he said, "Ki, fine." So he came looking for Rumi, and he meets him for the first time. This is the other story I'm trying to share now of their first encounter. And he asks, so he was, I think people say that he was coming on a mule with his students from his, madrasa, and going back to his home maybe, which is barely 2 kilometers from that place. So he, on that way, Shams flies in and holds his bridle, his mule's bridle, and stops him. And people are shocked, who is this man looking so shabby and tattered, and he has stopped our, beloved teacher who's so respected, and they tried to shoo him away. But Rumi said, no, wait, let us hear him. So Rumi asks, what do you want? He said, I have come with a question. What is knowledge? इल्म क्या है? तो रूमी बोलते हैं कि चीजों को जानना इल्म है. To know something is knowledge. So Shams looks very disappointed and he says, I have traveled such and such distance not to hear this answer from Rumi. I have come to meet from that a distance. This is not the answer that I was expecting from you. So he said, what do you mean? Then what is ilm then? What is knowledge? Then Shams says, knowledge is something that doesn't allow you to remain what you are. इल्म वो है जो तुमको पहले जैसा रहने ही ना दे, आपको वो बदल दे, ये इल्म है. It doesn't allow you to remain the same person. So maybe he was trying to push him into the experiential side of, or the implementation side, the effect side of knowledge. So maybe this was the way Shams was trying to connote that come beyond books, which Rumi later somewhere uses it as an example. There was a scholar who came and said, you talk about different things, we also know about God, we know all that you say, what is so different? So Rumi says, okay, then can you smell ROSE? It's good that you know the spelling of rose, but can you smell it? So the scholar was shocked and he said, now that you know God, now go and see God's glory in all that he has created. Now you know the spelling, it's your duty to go and smell the rose, see its beauty, appreciate its all varied colors that are available. So this knowledge is only a minuscule of the total that this word ROSE represents. So for him, knowledge is something that triggers an experience, basically. So you'd see that how he, in his poetry and everywhere, he's trying to take things that way. And this is that area which pushes Rumi beyond the confines and limitations of him being a Muslim scholar. So this is where Rumi transcends the religious, limitations rather, and becomes a universally accepted scholar who talks truth and not belief only. Okay, let us move further. So people have tried to, represent Rumi and Shams meeting through their paintings over these ages. So this is one of the painting. Somebody has tried to, portray both people meeting, and they have put their head together and they are maybe engrossed in some deep discussion here. So there is one more here. Shams is like literally engulfing all that Rumi stands for, So he's overwhelmed Rumi in some way. I think it's painted by some Iranian painter. I am forgetting his name, but he's quite popular. And this is his shrine. And this is the only place where I found something written in Persian that I could read. Otherwise, Turkish language is written in a Roman kind of script, which is very English-like. So this is the only place where there was something written in Persian. Okay, I would like to share one poem by him, or can somebody help me by reading this so that I am sure that you people are not sleeping by now? कोई पढ़ेगा इसको please?
The seeker's path.
Yes, on the seeker's path, wise men and fools are one. In his love, brothers and strangers are one. Go on, drink the wine of the beloved. In that faith, Muslims and pagans are one.
So here, Rumi is trying to say something that is so universal that it can't be even bracketed in or captured in any religion, and it crosses all the limitations of conditioning and grooming and you can say what is given to you basically it doesn't matter. So like he say, in his love, his is God, and brothers and strangers are one. So you don't feel that difference. So there is a unique thread that connects you to almost everything and everybody. Like Kabir says, the river that flows in you flows in me. He never mentioned that the river that flows in my brother or Hindus flows in me, or Muslims, it flows in me. It's beyond the limitations of caste, creed, and other labels that are given by society. Okay, so can I read a few poems that I have marked for you people from one of his books?
Yes,
Okay.
I can see thumbs up.
Yes, please.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, so he is again talking about earthly knowledge here in one of his poems, and he says, "You acquire earthly knowledge, passerby, my friend. That isn't knowledge; it's a lie. The only truth you need to know is him. Him is H capital. Only he can fill your measure to its brim. Knowledge like water flows from high to low. Be humble then, my brother, and let his presence flow." His is again capital. So he's saying that the best knowledge that you can have is humility. And then you'll attract grace. Kusum, I think, has raised her hand. Do they want to say something, or is it by mistake?
Kusum Gokarn,
Yep.
we can have the Q&A towards the end of the session. So I think it is by mistake.
Sure. If it's a question only, then we can take care of that in the end. Okay. There is another small couplet which he says, and here most of us think that by reason or through reason or intellect, we can understand everything. So Rumi here, who knows the limitations of scholars and knowledge and whatever you imbibe through books, he knows all that limitations. He has seen it himself. So he's sharing that. Reason cannot ever grasp the final ecstasy. So reason can only imagine that, but can never experience. So most of the scholars and intellectual people, they imagine that God is like that. That doesn't mean that they are experiencing it. Experiencing God is a totally different thing. So these saints actually talk about that. So God is not a knowledge that you can acquire, but yes, one experience that you can have. So knowledge is the first stepping stone towards realizing God, basically. This is what he's trying to say. Reason cannot ever grasp that final ecstasy. To bring a thinker to his God is to make a blind man see. So one who is using just the intellect will never be able to reach there. He has to drop that. So somebody asked for an analogy, and Rumi gave that analogy, that reason is a small boat tossing in the sea called love. So he's giving the comparison. between that boat and ocean. So he says ocean is that love and that boat is the reason that you carry. So this is the proportion. There is one more poem that I would like to read. And this goes for anybody who takes things literally and wants to limit himself or herself.
Requesting everyone to please keep themselves on mute.
Okay, so most of us actually half live. And as many scholars and poets and philosophers have said, or saints have said, that way we are scared of visiting our own beauty. Something stops us from visiting our own higher capacities. We become so conditioned. So we reserve ourselves so much that we live in, Windows safe mode only. So we don't get back to our normal mode. And that is why we live little unfulfilled, because the fulfillment lies in that space only. So here he's, as a donkey is used as an analogy for our body, like by Sufis. So whenever we are reserving ourselves, our bodies, our physical capacities, they, treat it like a, or they give it an example of a donkey, basically. So our physical self is, like Mullah Nasruddin's donkey is actually the person's physical self. And Mullah himself represents the mental capacities, which are trying to, to reach out to the higher capacities. So that's why at times he looks fool and intelligent also. So here he is saying the ass will throw his stubbornness, run into the wild. So the donkey has escaped into the wild from the master, leaving his barn maybe. His master seeks to bring him back like a prodigal child. So the master is running behind him, please come back. Not simply because he can get more labor from the beast, but to prevent him in the wild becoming a tiger's feast. So this is how we behave at times. Reserve ourselves, trying to avoid something which is beneficial. Okay. One more poem I would read and then we can move on to our all-purpose lecture.
There's also a request from someone that if you could read the Rumi's poem in the language written by him and then explain it in English.
Difficult for me because it's not my main language, and it is not like the book is in English only. So I'm as handicapped by language limitations as many of you are. But yes, I will be sharing that poem which is sung like a Qawwali, Madiha, that link I have shared. Towards the end, I will share that, and that is in both. You'll have titles in English. At the same time, the language of the Qawwali is Persian only. So there you can have that feel also. So it's a good poem. It's a very, very deep poem, and it is very well sung by a Pakistani, I think, Qawwal. And he is explaining also a bit. So you go through that, you'll have a nice time listening to that. And that link we can share towards the end.
Yes, I'll share it with everybody. Thank you.
Yeah. So there is a couplet which goes like, the header is enmity of the wise. The Sufi says the enmity of wise men is preferable to the honeyed lies of the fool who professes all his love and pleads his earnestness with vacant sighs. So इसको जैसे हम अपनी डे टू डे लैंग्वेज में बोलते हैं कि एक बेवकूफ की दोस्ती से बेहतर है कि एक अक्लमंद से दुश्मनी कर ली जाए, क्योंकि वो उस बेवकूफ की दोस्ती से बेहतर साबित होगा in long run, even if he is your enemy, but he is a wise enemy. Okay, so let's move further. This is a closer look of his shrine, and almost everywhere I found this written, Ya Hazrat Maulana. So here also on the door itself, this is written. And in Konya, if you go and just say Maulana, the taxi driver knows where he has to take you, because this place is such a center and so popular. And Maulana, if I can translate, is like Guruji or Guru, master. So it is almost every place, like you'll have 100 cafes called Maulana Cafe. You'll have almost everything called Maulana over there. Okay, so this is the entry gate, and I can share a video that I shot inside. Madiha, just remind me towards the end, and I can share that. It's on my channel also, but I will share that link with you. So, so that people can see what is inside the shrine. So it's a video journey, and I'll share that with you towards the end. Okay, so let me move further. This is me outside his shrine. One of my friends clicked me. So I refused to go inside without taking off my shoes. And people were like wearing those plastic bags and then moving in. But somehow, like, we being Indians are not used to, moving into such sanctified places with shoes on. So I was very uncomfortable, and there was no place where I could put my shoes because they don't have such provision. So people just wear that plastic sheath and move in. So I was looking for a place, and then my friend clicked me this photograph in the meantime. So this inscription I can read for those who would love to hear some Persian. And this was a shocker for me. This is for the first time I read this, and I just clicked so that I can share with other people who talk otherwise. And it says, Kaabatul Ushaq Bashad E Maqam, Har ki Naqis Amadinda Shud Tamam. It means Kaabatul Ushaq Bashad E Maqam. Kaaba of Ushaq, lovers, is this place. Okay, Har ki Naqis Amad, whoever incomplete, broken, comes here. Har ki Naqis Amad, Inda Shud Tamam, finds completeness, finds wholeness. So this was at the, I think, the moment you enter the first gate, this was written, and after this the shrine, like, I think, starts. So this was in the veranda, I think. Yeah. So this is a night shot that I took. This is a museum which is there, and sorry, and there is some master, I think, or a coach who is teaching that dervish how to swirl. So swirling by itself has a very unique story attached to it, and this is something very unique about Mavlavi order or Rumi's followers. So after Rumi lost Shams, after he was with him for, I think, almost 1 or 2 years in the first instance, and then he disappeared. He was brought back later. So one day Rumi was like wandering as if looking for something, and he was all by himself on a road, and he heard some thumping, which was, if you see work, the what do you call it, that silver foil that we put on barfi and all, sweets, kheer and all. So there was a goldsmith whose team was like beating silver foil and creating those foils, by beating the silver. And there was a hum which was being created by that rhythm they were like producing in a synchronized manner. So Rumi started dancing. So this was the start of the whirling, you can say. And he started whirling, and he kept on. And then because he was a very respected person in that area, so he and the goldsmith also knew him personally. So some of the person who was outside, he pulled that goldsmith outside and said, look, your friend is dancing like this. So he could see that it is because of the rhythm that he is doing this. So his time was up, actually. The workers had to go home, and he asked them not to stop beating. And they kept on beating till he was dancing. So that was the day, maybe this summer, a whirling was born. But this is not something new. This is actually imitating the heavenly bodies turning. And this is very popular. Even before Rumi, it was a popular thing in Persia, in Iran. So this was not something that Rumi invented, but yes, he introduced this for the first time in Turkey, maybe. And Mavlavi order, dervishes do this ritual. Of course, it has its own, limitations and its own rules and regulations that you have to follow. But this is something unique to Mevlevi order Sufis, those who belong to Maulana Rumi's lineage. So I was fortunate that it was Saturday, the day I visited Konya, and this is the Sama I could attend in that theater, which is next to his museum only. So they conduct this in the evenings, Saturday evenings generally. And there may be some other occasions when it is organized. And it's a very unique experience. So friends, Rumi's journey, leaves a certain lesson to all of us. And that lesson is what we want to experience or strive to experience as God or supreme consciousness is something that your religion is supposed to take you to. So as a believer, you come to a point through your following your religious norms, and beyond that, you come to a zone of truth where you have to drop all that. And then God becomes your experience, your state, your being. So somebody asked Rumi, like, how Shams taught you? And Rumi smiled and said that Shams killed me, he minced me, he cooked me. I'm no more the same Rumi you are talking to. So you can imagine the kind of transformation this scholar, poet, preacher must have gone through. And as a result of this, what happens, जैसा लोग आमतौर पे हम बोलते हैं कि इश्क में आदमी पोएट हो जाता है, तो Rumi, being a scholar, also became a poet. तो रूमी का जो दीवाने शम्स है वो एक पोएट्री कलेक्शन है, और वो शम्स means sun actually in Persian. तो वो शम्स का शान में उन्होंने लिखने की कोशिश की है. ये पूरी पोएट्री बुक है. सबसे मशहूर जो उनका कलेक्शन है या उनका वर्क मैं कहूँ is Masnavi, which is in 6 or 8 volumes. It's a very what do you call it, very robust literature that you have to spend some good time reading all that to come to understand what religion's goal are and what these stories talk about. So here he is trying to expound some stories from Quran, and this book has the privilege of being known as Quran in Persian. So it is a very respected book, and you can, if all of you who want to read things, I think this is one of the book that that you can visit. So then there are some lectures recorded in his live meetings with his students and all, more like discussions, which is a collection called Fihi Ma Fihi, which means it is what it is. So this is another collection that you can see. And one of the most popular book, you must have heard that name, by Alif Shafak, is 40 Rules of Love. There also you can get some hint about this spiritual romance between Shams and Rumi, how Rumi was being groomed into a totally different person by Shams. So, and people have their own way of consuming everything. So this relationship also is open to interpretation. And I have heard that in West, because Rumi is so popular, and how can you imagine one male becoming friend of another female and missing him so badly and craving for him? So his books are also read as gay literature at places. So they don't realize that that this was for some other purpose. But yes, that's also a reality. Can we have a time check? What is the time? Because I can't see my clock.
It's 5:45. And I think before going into the Q&A, we would also like to hear some quotes that you love.
Rumi, I mean, I have read so many, but right now, like, I'm not able to recall. But yes, one that comes very striking to me is most of us see that love mean something that we all know. It is like being nice to people and all. The love saints talk about is totally different thing. So in my upcoming book, I have tried to explain it through scientific explanations of David Hawkins, Horowitz, and many other scholars, like what that love is all about. It's a state, okay? And in that state, or that state, or that in that being state of that what do you call it? That flow. In that flow, you connect to everything. So one of the quotes I love from Rumi is, "Love is the bridge between you and everything." So here he's trying to hint that only, but I am trying to say through my book, or my own interpretation about what love is. So here, the love is actually something that unites you with the whole universe. It is actually something that represents Tawheed, that represents Yog, that everything is one, there is no two. So Advait means not two, it is just one. So love is the space, love is the state wherein you can feel that you're connected to everything, to the creator of universe also. So this is one of the profound statement that I found, and I keep on quoting this every now and then. So I would like to hear from you people. You must have,
Can I ask?
read Rumi.
Yes, we can now begin with the comments, questions. Anyone wants to say anything? Zubeda ma'am, I think you have something to say.
Yes, I want to ask him that Hasnain, are you related with the Waris, the one who recites in Muharram some few nice nohas? The same Waris or something, somebody else?
Okay.
Waris.
Which Waris are you talking about? There are quite a few names. One is one who wrote Hir Ranjha. And there is one saint, Haji Waris Ali Shah, who is saint of Barabanki Deva, Lucknow.
No. No, he is somebody else, the one who recites Muharram. In
Okay.
Muharram, he recites, his name is even Waris.
Okay. So my sheikh was third generation saint of Waris Ali Shah, that saint of Deva, and my name Waris comes from his name only. So he's the one
Yeah.
who gave me this name.
Okay, okay.
So you can say that my great grand sheikh was founder of Warsi Silsila, you can say. And if you happen to see last year's 26th Jan tableau of Uttar Pradesh, his shrine is there.
Okay.
On UP, or you just Google Deva Sharif.
I thought you will give some Sufi singing.
Yeah, that Madiha will share, that link Madiha will share.
Please, we want to hear that.
Yeah, it is
Yes,
there.
ma'am, I'll definitely share that.
How can you forget that?
Satya Prakash sir, you have to say something. You're on mute. Please unmute yourself, Satya Prakash sir. He's on mute. You need to unmute yourself, Satya Prakash sir.
Just a minute. Just
Yeah.
a moment.
Yeah. We are able to hear you
It's
now.
okay now?
Yeah.
Is that okay now? I'm saying that in Hindi and Sanskrit literature also same interpretations are there of love, where there's only one thing. I mean, God and human beings are almost same. So uske liye I would like to quote a doha. I don't know who's the writer, perhaps Rahim or Bihari is the writer of that doha. Doha, जब मैं था तब हरी नहीं, जब मैं था तब हरी नहीं, अब हरी है मैं नाए, प्रेम गली अति सांकरी, जामे दो न समाए. मीन्स कि जब मैं था, when I was an individual, तो मेरे सामने गॉड नहीं थे, लेकिन जब गॉड को मैंने देखा तो फिर मैं नहीं रहा. अब हम दोनों एक हो गए हैं, और जो लव की जो स्ट्रीट है, जो प्रेम की गली है, वो इतनी पतली है कि उसमें दो नहीं घुस सकते, उसमें एक ही होना पड़ेगा. और उसमें भागवत में एक और इंटरप्रिटेशन लव की दी गई है कि लव का मतलब है देना देना, मतलब हम अपने प्रिय को किस तरह से खुश कर सकते हैं वो करना, ना कि उससे बदले में लेना कि मैं तुझे प्यार कर रहा हूँ तू मुझे प्यार कर. वो प्यार ना होकर के व्यापार हो गया. तो लव के लिए सिर्फ देना देना और देना है, और अपने प्रिय के लिए, अपनी प्रियतमा के लिए जो भी है उसके लिए हमेशा उसका भला करना और उसको सुख पहुंचाने की ही इंटेंशन. This is what I wanted to say.
Perfect, sir. Perfect.
Thank you.
We are aligned. और एक चीज मैं आपको यहाँ पे ऐड करूंगा, जो आपने दोहा बोला कि जब मैं था तब हरी नहीं, अब हरी है मैं नाए, प्रेम गली अति सांकरी, जामे दो न समाए. तो इसमें अगर आप देखेंगे तो एक सेंट हुए हैं, और वो मतलब सरकार वारिस पाक जो हमारे सेंट हैं, जिनके नाम से मेरे मुर्शिद ने, मेरे गुरु ने नाम जोड़ा, उनका नाम जोड़ दिया मेरे साथ. तो उनके पास वो रहा करते थे, बेदम शाह वारसी उनका नाम था. तो उन्होंने एक बड़ी अच्छी चीज बोली जो बड़ी क्लियर है कि इंसान की जो सर्च ऑफ गॉड है वो क्या है. तो उन्होंने कहा कि, और ये तब तक चलती है जब तक कि वो दोनों एक नहीं हो जाते हैं. वो कहते हैं कि मैं मिट गया हूं, तो अगर मेरा अहंकार या मेरी आई कॉन्शियसनेस खत्म हो गई है तो कहते हैं मैं मिट गया हूं, तो फिर किसका नाम है बेदम. देन हु इज कॉल्ड बेदम. अगर मेरा आई कॉन्शियसनेस खत्म हो गया है, देन हु इज कॉल्ड बेदम. व्हाई एम आई आइडेंटिफाइंग विद दिस नेम इटसेल्फ. तो कहते हैं मैं मिट गया हूं तो फिर किसका नाम है बेदम, वो मिल गए हैं तो फिर किसको ढूंढता हूं मैं.
Perfect.
Till that I consciousness remains, the search for perfection, or that search for that higher consciousness goes on in us, and it's a very fine search. It's
in other words, it's the search of own self only.
True.
I mean, to know who am I, where from have I come, where I have to go, why have I come. So these are the questions which are to be asked by individual to himself only.
Yeah.
And state comes when two are not there, only one thing exists. That is supreme God or God, whatever you may name it.
Yeah, yeah.
Jayashree Pancholi, ma'am, I think do you want to say anything, ma'am?
Yeah. Is Sufi saint is connected with you people? Sufi people in white dress? Sufi.
I think your question is not that clear, ma'am. Could you please repeat?
Sufi Panth कहते हैं. Those who are in white dress dancing, are they connected with you people?
Whom? Me?
Or any? Yes.
No, I think
Waris.
this place is Turkey, and I think this is one of the rituals of Mavlavi order only. So people have, I have studied, Sufi saints when I was working on my book. Very soon, inshallah, it will be out. So I studied about so many rituals, and I found that Sufi rituals from Indonesia to Bangladesh, to Malaysia, to India, Pakistan, to Iran, to Turkey, to Morocco, to Spain,
okay,
or Chechnya, or Africa, you will find that their rituals are very local. Okay, like at our place, here they are called Samazens. So Sama mean, essentially Sama word means hear.
Here, listen.
You know, Samat, Sama mean to hear. So God is called Sami. That means one who hears. So in our area, Qawwali or call, the spoken word or a sung word, is more popular ritual. So here people don't dance actually until they become very ecstatic. But this is not, this is a very organized way, and this is imitating the sun and moon, basically the way the heavenly bodies are swirling. So they have certain norms. I think their right hand is always pointing upwards like this, and lower hand is pointing downwards. You can see, look at their hand. If you can see my arrow, look at this. This is upwards and this is downwards, and this one is up and this is down. So you receive from heaven and pass it to the people.
Yes.
So you are receiving and giving. So you are a channel basically, and they just whirl. And it's not a very long ritual. I think it took just 20 minutes. It was not more than 20-minute ritual. So yeah, maybe like, so this is their way of connecting to the rhythm of the universe, you can say, or harmonizing. So here I would like to make a point. There is some word which is used for nice people in Indian mythology. What is that?
People.
So there are two categories of people. One are nice, the others are the bad ones, the good one and bad ones.
Yes.
What are the good ones called?
Devas.
Deva.
Deva.
Dev.
And others are?
Asura.
Raksas.
Asura.
Raksas.
So the Asur and Devas have another name. What is that?
Having two qualities different.
No. One is Sur, the other is Asur.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
What does Sur mean?
Good people.
No. Sur means somebody who is in harmony. Surila hai, wo sur mein hai.
Yes.
So,
Notes.
he is synchronized with the harmony of the rest of the universe. So now you see, isn't it synchronization of some sort?
Yes.
So this is what it represents.
Okay. I need to hear a poem from you.
Lalita ma'am wants to say something. Please go ahead, ma'am.
A poem from you. Can we hear?
We are in the gallery view.
A poem from Warsi sir.
Yes, towards the
Hasnain
end we
sir.
can have that. Zubeda ma'am, let's just give some.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have one
poem.
Lalita ma'am, you wants to say something. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Sir, recently I read some articles on Sufism, and Mullah Nasruddin and Rumi poems and all. I was very much inspired by the course of Rumi. Shall I read one now? 4
Please,
lines.
please, please. It will be a privilege.
Okay. Knock and he will open the door. Vanish and he will make you shine like a sun. Fall and he will raise you to the heavens. Become nothing and he will turn you into everything.
Wow.
So nice. So I have read a lot of Rumi poems like this. So I actually liked it. That is why I wanted to read it for you all. So Sufism is a very big religious, perform their worship. That is what I understand. This Sufi dance is a ritual, isn't it?
Yep.
Sufi dance and the Sama. All this I came to know while reading. And it is Mullah Nasruddin's stories are also very much inspiring. And so I liked it very much. Thank you very much for the information you
Thank you,
gave.
Lalita ma'am.
Sway, anyone else wants to say anything? Yes, you're on mute, Satyaprakash sir.
Yeah, actually, Sufi word has come from word Suf. That means the white colors, wool, and it's asan type, a cushion type of thing, which Sufi people, I mean, the old monks were used to sit over and think over the spiritualism. So from that word, Sufi has come Suf to Sufi. Sufi means the wool, what I have read about.
Yeah.
White colored wool for sitting. I mean, made white colors, a blanket made of white color wool. That was called Suf. And from that Sufi word has come out. What have I read about?
Yeah, this is the most popular definition. But you know, I would say that Sufi is not somebody who just wears a certain kind of clothes. I read a quote somewhere and it went like, if Sufism was a knowledge, it could have been imparted in schools and colleges or madrasas. If Sufism was a ritual, anybody could be taught that and you can move further. Sufism is a strange mix of grace and experience. So anybody who's, okay, if I can give you a definition of Sufism here, is somebody whose intent, thoughts, the words and actions, the behaviors are aligned. He is the person who can be called Sufi. He may be wearing any kind of robe, and there is so much of variety. Some wear, like our saint wear saffron. You can Google Waris saints and you can see they wear saffron.
Okay.
And that too, not a stitched cloth. It is more like a sari, because this is the kind of cloth which is worn when you go for a Hajj. So Sarkar Waris Pak, our saint, went for a Hajj and never changed that clothing. So somebody asked him, like, people perform Hajj and after that they, they take this cloth off and they start wearing the common clothes, normal clothes. He said, लोग काबे को छोड़ के आते हैं, हम काबे को लेके आए हैं, हम क्यों कैसे उतार सकते हैं? So आपने उसको कभी नहीं उतारा. So that's why the Waris saints wear saffron. So you will see them wearing black, wearing gowns, all type of, and not wearing any such special clothing also. So it has got nothing to do with outer appearance, but yes, it has got a lot to do with what you are like being at that moment. It is the game of guarding your state, the state which can connect you to the creator, or which puts you in that zone. I think I would call that person a Sufi. He may not be a Muslim, he may not be wearing that robe, or he may not be, chanting mantras, whatever. It just doesn't matter. It's a quality, basically.
So what is the message of Rumi?
Rumi's
few
message,
words.
his
Love
message
only.
is very clear.
Experience God,
Yeah,
unite with God.
yeah.
Is there
I want
Hello,
to ask
sir.
a question.
Hello?
Yeah.
Can
There
I,
is some.
Can we please go one by one?
can I ask a question now?
Just
Yeah,
a minute.
please.
Yeah,
Is there Sufi music?
Habil
Hello,
sir,
sir.
please go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, there is Sufi music also. No? One singer is, I don't remember, plays the music, plays the Sufi this thing. I mean,
I
Here's
didn't
some
get you, sir.
points.
I will be sharing the link. There's a lot of people who want to hear Sufi music and even see that video of the shrine. So I will be sharing the link.
Yes,
But we
you
have
want.
exceeded time limit, so that's why we'll have to end the session now. So thank you very much. I will be sharing the link within the All India group, and your respective coordinators will share the link to all of you. So as because it's more than 6 now, and so thank you very much. I think it was indeed an enlightening session, and we
Thank
all
you.
learned
Nice.
why Rumi continues to influence and inspire people. And I feel like this kind of in-depth understanding, with this kind of in-depth understanding, we all will be reading more of Rumi's poetry in the lockdown now.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Thank
thank you very
much.
much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Nice.
Balaji. I got your compliment.
Thank
It
you.
was very interesting.
It was
Finish
nice.
your next session.
Thank you, sir.
Good.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Like to say one sentence, a
Please,
quote
ma'am.
of a Rumi.
Please go ahead.
Every religion there is love, but love has no religion.
Yes. Very correct.
Very beautiful.
Right.
So with this note, we'll end the session today. Good evening, everyone.
Thanks, Madhya.
Nice. Thank you.
Thanks, Madhya. Thanks, Madhya. Nice.